There is something profoundly unsettling about watching someone betray a soul that only ever meant well. Purity, real purity, is rare. It is the quiet refusal to compromise values, the consistent choice to remain honest when deception would be easier, and the gentle strength to love without manipulation. And yet, in this upside-down world, such purity is often mistaken for weakness and targeted, betrayed, mocked, used. But here's the truth that time never fails to reveal. You cannot violate something sacred without consequence. When they betrayed what was pure, they didn't just damage another, they fractured something within themselves. What they called a victory was the beginning of their own unraveling. Because purity, once betrayed, becomes a mirror, and in it they are forced to face what they've become. Purity is not weakness, it is sacred power. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't demand attention, doesn't clamor for recognition, and certainly doesn't impose itself onto others. That power is purity, a strength so misunderstood that the modern world often discards it before even attempting to comprehend it. We live in a culture that mistakes cynicism for wisdom, that praises cold detachment as maturity, and celebrates the ability to manipulate as intelligence. In such an environment, a pure heart looks strange, almost naive. A soul that still chooses kindness over calculation, honesty over advantage, loyalty over convenience, is seen as someone who doesn't get how the world works. But nothing could be further from the truth. Purity is not weakness, it is sacred power. To remain pure in a world that rewards betrayal requires a level of discipline most people will never understand. It takes strength to resist bitterness when you've been hurt. It takes courage to remain soft when you've been hardened by life. It takes unimaginable resilience to keep giving love, truth, and loyalty in a culture that trades these things for attention, control, or personal gain. Purity is not the absence of experience, it's the triumph over it. It's when someone has walked through fire, betrayal, heartbreak, and injustice, yet chooses not to become like what tried to destroy them. That choice, that refusal to surrender your soul, is strength at its highest level. The pure are often underestimated, but they carry a different kind of authority. Not the loud kind, not the aggressive kind, but the kind that makes people uncomfortable without even saying a word. Their presence convicts others because they serve as a reminder of what people have abandoned in themselves. And that's why those who have betrayed purity often feel compelled to discredit it. They mock it, they dismiss it, they label it too much, too sensitive, too naive. Why? Because purity reflects what they no longer possess. It reminds them of their own fall from innocence. It's easier to destroy what you envy than to confront the fact that you've become the very thing you once despised. But those who walk in purity must understand their strength doesn't need to be loud to be lasting. They may not be celebrated, but they are protected. They may not be understood, but they are grounded in something eternal. And while the impure may seem to get ahead, climbing ladders built on manipulation and deceit, their foundation is made of sand. The storm always comes, and when it does, it will not be the ruthless who endure. It will be the rooted, those who built their lives on truth, integrity, love, and clarity, even when it cost them, especially when it cost them. Purity is sacred because it aligns with the divine structure of reality. It is not just a personal trait. It is a spiritual alignment. It means you are walking in harmony with something bigger than yourself. And that is why betraying purity always brings consequence. Not because someone cast a curse, but because betrayal severs that alignment. It introduces chaos. It opens the door to restlessness, anxiety, inner conflict. You cannot violate the sacred and expect to walk away whole. The damage may not show immediately, but it always emerges in relationships that don't last, in peace that never comes, in success that still feels hollow, in love that slips through their fingers no matter how hard they try to grasp it. There is also a myth, a dangerous one, that purity must defend itself, that it must fight back, prove itself, raise its voice to be seen as legitimate. But it doesn't. It doesn't have to become corrupted to be taken seriously. The very essence of purity is that it doesn't descend into the mud to win. It doesn't scream to be heard. Its power lies in its ability to remain unshaken, untouched by what seeks to contaminate it. And in that, it wins a deeper, longer battle, the battle for the soul, to those who have remained pure in a world that tried to break them. This is your vindication. You were never weak. You were never foolish. You were never too much. You were, in fact, rare. And the very people who betrayed you will one day realize what they lost wasn't just a person. It was an anchor, a mirror, a light they didn't know they needed until it was gone. And when they go searching for peace in all the places purity used to bring it freely, they will come up. And because that kind of peace isn't found in the noise, it's found in the quiet strength of a soul that stayed true no matter the cost. Betrayal of goodness is not just a personal attack, it's a spiritual crime. When someone betrays you, it's not just the breaking of trust, it's the dismantling of something sacred, especially when what was betrayed wasn't built on selfish motives or manipulation, but on raw, unfiltered goodness, on honesty, on compassion, on the kind of love that doesn't expect repayment, only understanding. When a person betrays that kind of purity, that kind of goodness, they aren't just hurting someone, they are rupturing something within themselves, something invisible but vital, something spiritual. Most people think betrayal is a personal act. They see it as a simple offense, one person lying, cheating, abandoning, or manipulating another. But it goes far deeper than that. Because when you betray goodness, you betray the part of yourself that once recognized it. You fracture the alignment between your soul and the truth. And from that moment forward, you don't just carry the weight of what you did, you carry the burden of who you had to become in order to do it. There's a reason betrayal lingers, a reason it echoes louder than other forms of pain, because it's not just about what was taken, it's about what was desecrated. To be betrayed after showing your real self, your vulnerabilities, your sincerity, your loyalty, is to feel like your essence was rejected. It's a violence done not to your possessions, not even to your time, but to your spirit. And while the betrayed often carry the visible wounds, the betrayer carries the unseen ones that slowly corrupt from the inside out. It starts subtly, a gnawing discomfort, an unease that doesn't go away, no matter how well they distract themselves. They might laugh louder, post more, drink more, chase validation, but in the quiet moments, when the noise dies down, that guilt creeps in, because deep down they know they've violated something pure, and the soul does not forget such things. It stores them, it mourns them, it judges them in ways harsher than any external critic ever could. And the reason this pain sticks, the reason betrayal never feels light even for the one who committed it, is because it violates the very order of how we were designed to live. We are built to recognize truth, to seek meaning, to connect in authentic ways. When someone betrays goodness, they are choosing distortion over clarity. They're choosing chaos over order. And in doing so, they don't just break someone else's heart. They blur their own moral compass. What once felt obvious, right from wrong, good from evil, becomes murky. And that confusion, it grows. It poisons future relationships. It disrupts decision-making. It steals peace. People think they can walk away from the good they betrayed and find better. They believe they can abandon those who love them purely and simply replace them with someone else. But what they don't realize is that it's not the person they're running from, it's the mirror. It's the reflection that reminds them of who they were supposed to be. And until they face that, until they make peace with the truth they violated, nothing they touch will feel whole. Their success will be haunted. Their relationships will feel thin. Their happiness will always feel temporary. Betrayal isn't just about losing someone. It's about losing access to your own higher self. And that loss comes at a high cost. People try to pay for it with distraction, denial, even justification. But nothing satisfies. Because the part of them that knew better is still alive. And it's not staying silent. It whispers, it pulls, it reminds, and over time it becomes a torment, not as punishment from outside, but as the natural justice of an awakened soul in conflict with itself. There's a spiritual law in place, whether people believe in it or not. You cannot break what is sacred and expect to remain untouched. You cannot walk away from real love, real truth, real loyalty, and expect peace. Because the universe remembers, the soul records, and the weight of a soul out of alignment will make itself known, not always through dramatic events, but through subtle unravelings, broken trust, repeated failures, sleepless nights, a constant search for something that feels missing, even when everything else appears perfect on the surface. To betray goodness is to curse yourself with longing, a longing for something you once had but can no longer touch, not because it's gone, but because you no longer qualify to hold it. You chose the easy path, the selfish path, and the road back is steep, narrow, and lined with mirrors. Every step forward requires a confrontation with what you became in the process of hurting someone who meant you no harm. But to those who have been betrayed, hear this. You did not lose because you were too kind. You did not fall behind because you were honest. You were not naive. You were real. And it is that realness that now serves as a mirror, as a judgment, as a spiritual reckoning for those who betrayed you. You may have wept, but they now wander. You may have hurt, but they now hide. Because when you betray goodness, you don't just break a bond, you break yourself. And eventually the soul comes calling for its death. The curse isn't cast, it's incurred. There's a misconception many people cling to, that consequences only follow external judgment, that you need someone to curse you, wish you harm, or expose you for your wrongdoings in order to suffer. But real life doesn't operate on such theatrical rules. The truth is quieter, far more precise. The curse isn't cast. It's incurred, not through spells or revenge, but through the silent, inescapable laws of life. When someone betrays purity, when they harm a heart that only meant well, they don't need anyone to retaliate. They've already started the process of decay within themselves. What they think they got away with starts taking root in the shadows of their own mind, and slowly it begins to eat away at them. You see, betrayal is not a moment, it's a seed. And that seed doesn't vanish just because no one confronts them. It grows, slowly, silently, and often without their awareness, at first. But in time, the symptoms begin to show. The peace they once had, disturbed. The confidence they used to fake so easily, now fractured. The ability to love with depth and trust, gone. They've traded momentary advantage for long-term fragmentation. But they don't realize it immediately. No one ever does. Because in the beginning, betrayal feels like control, like power, like escape. But what they don't see is that in choosing to betray something sacred, they have aligned themselves with disorder. And disorder always consumes itself. The world has a structure to it, not just physically but morally. Spiritually, when you live in truth, when you treat people with sincerity, when you operate with integrity, you align with that structure. Life has a strange way of guiding and guarding those who move in harmony with it. But when you disrupt that alignment, when you take what was pure and twist it for your own convenience, something shifts. You may not hear a thunderclap or see a lightning strike, but inside the order collapses. You start drifting, and you don't even know you're lost. People who betray goodness often live under the illusion that they are fine, that because no one has punished them, there is no price to pay. But life is not instant, it is accumulative. And so is consequence. The curse shows up in patterns, the relationships that fall apart without clear reason, the dreams that always fall just out of reach, the unshakable restlessness that no amount of money, praise, or success can soothe. They don't connect the dots because they refuse to look within. But what's happening is simple. They are living in the aftermath of the choices they thought were invisible. They are experiencing the fallout of the fracture they caused, not just in another, but in themselves. When someone betrays what is sacred, be it love, loyalty, purity, or trust, they don't need an enemy. They become their own. The betrayal becomes a mirror they cannot escape, a reflection they try to drown out with noise. They'll change partners, change cities, change goals, and chase distractions. But the curse follows, not because they are hunted, but because they are haunted by the version of themselves they had to kill in order to justify what they did. And that ghost does not sleep. You don't need to wish harm upon those who hurt you. You don't need to wait for karma with bitterness in your heart. Life handles its own justice. And it does so in ways that are far more accurate than human revenge ever could be. The curse isn't loud. It's not violent. It's slow. It shows up in the form of confusion, in the inability to connect, in the chronic dissatisfaction that follows someone from achievement to achievement. It manifests in the moment they meet someone new and realize they cannot fully love them, not because the person isn't worthy, but because something inside them has closed, something sacred has been shut down, and they were the ones who locked the door. But here's the most haunting part. The curse doesn't just destroy their connection to others. It disconnects them from themselves, from their peace, from their purpose, from the ability to look in the mirror and respect the person staring back. And that inner erosion, it spreads. It touches everything they touch. It echoes through their words, their actions, their failures. They don't realize it's happening, not at first. But over time, they begin to feel it, the emptiness, the echo, the weight. There's no curse like the one we place on ourselves through choices we refuse to own. There's no punishment harsher than being followed by a conscience we tried to silence. And no betrayal is ever truly buried, it just changes form. It waits. In the cracks of their joy, in the silences they can't endure, in the memories they try to erase, they think they've moved on, but the soul keeps records, and every debt comes due. So, no, the curse was never cast by you. You don't need to wish pain on them. They already carry it, not in the obvious ways, but in the kind that truly counts, in the sleepless nights, in the inability to feel whole, in the quiet truth that something inside them broke the day they chose betrayal over love. And That's not something anyone else needs to punish. Life already did. The curse isn't external, it's internal, and it's one they gave to themselves. They thought you were replaceable. Now they're haunted by your absence. One of the most painful truths we're ever forced to accept is this: people can walk away from you without realizing the depth of what they're losing. They can betray you, discard you, diminish your worth, and do so with the arrogance of someone who believes you're replaceable, easy to forget, easy to replace. They misread your silence as weakness, your love as naivety, your consistency as predictability. What they never understood was that your presence in their life was not just comfort, it was covering. You carried something they couldn't recognize while it was close. They thought they could find it again somewhere else, in someone else. But what they didn't know was that what you gave wasn't common, it was spiritual. And now, long after you're gone, it's your absence that speaks louder than anything you ever said while you were still there. They are haunted, not by your anger, not by revenge, not even by guilt in the traditional sense, but by the stark emptiness that followed your exit, by the contrast, by the silence. You see, when someone walks away from real love, they don't just lose the person, they lose the version of themselves that existed when they were with you, the more honest, more open, more grounded version of themselves that your energy naturally called forth. You didn't just bring light, you revealed shadows. And when you left, the shadows returned, and with them came the cold. They thought they were gaining freedom, but all they earned was distance, and not the kind that brings peace, the kind that multiplies longing, the kind that turns memories into mirrors. And those mirrors don't lie. They reflect everything they tried to suppress, all the times they were met with patience when they deserved judgment, all the forgiveness you gave without keeping score, all the loyalty they took for granted until it stopped showing up. And now, in the absence of your presence, they begin to realize the magnitude of what they dismissed. It doesn't come all at once. It comes in waves, in moments, in the ordinary silence of an ordinary night, when something small triggers a memory they can't unsee. It comes when they hear laughter that doesn't sound like yours, when they reach out and don't feel the same warmth, when they finally get what they thought they wanted and it feels hollow. Because what they wanted was never material, it was never situational. It was you, the peace you carried, the grounding you gave, the clarity your spirit brought into every chaotic space. And now, their world may look better on the outside, but internally it's filled with noise. Because without your energy, everything echoes. You see, some people don't recognize the gift until they're starved of it. Some don't understand purity until all they're left with is pretense. Some only value loyalty after they've been surrounded by opportunists. And by the time the realization hits, the bridge has already burned, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. Because you didn't leave out of hatred, you left because you finally understood that staying would require self-betrayal, that keeping the peace was costing you yours, that love, no matter how genuine, cannot survive where it is not honored. And so you walked away, quietly, powerfully, finally. And that act, that silence, that dignity, it wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning, not just for you, but for them too. The beginning of their reckoning, the start of their confrontation with the truth that you were never the weak one, you were never too much, you were the blessing. And now your absence has become their teacher, their torment, the echo that keeps returning in rooms full of people, the ache they can't medicate or manipulate. They thought your love was disposable, and now they are learning it was divine. They believed you were replaceable, and now they can't even find a copy. Because you can't replace alignment. You can't duplicate something that was born from soul and sacrifice. They walked away believing they won, and now they wake up wondering why everything feels like loss. And you rose, quietly, stronger, clearer, untouched by the games, unburdened by the lies. You didn't need to prove your value. Life proved it for you. And now, in the void they created, the truth rings loud. Some absences are louder than presence. Some silences scream. And in every space you no longer occupy, your absence now speaks for you. A voice they can't shut off. A lesson they can't unlearn. A blessing they can never reclaim.